You can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
Good evening, everyone. How are we doing on this? Well, I can't particularly say I'm having a lovely Saturday, but I'm having a Saturday. Okay, that explains why that's so fucking loud. Okay, there we go. Had my volume still turned up from editing. Yay. Brilliant me. And why is that not plugged in? Okay. I think we're good. We're okay. So welcome to the usual weekend Weebery recap that I do every Saturday night. Talking about all this week's anime, or well, as much of this week's anime as I possibly can watch, and going over a little bit of the news and the things that have happened. So there's been a lot as far as what's happened that we could talk about for the news. I'm not going to touch on the tariff stuff because I feel like that's basically just going to be me doing a bunch of speculation. Because it's up in the air. I can't really say for certain what's going to happen with that. But there are some stories. One maybe not so anime related, but one nonetheless that I will cover. Some cartoon stuff, things about the anime industry as a whole, and a little bit of talk about South Korea, because that's a thing that I'm going to cover tonight. So with that said, hello to Jeremy Turner and JM the Elite Fan. I appreciate you. Jeremy, if you're listening to this afterwards, I appreciate you coming back and checking it out. And just, generally like dropping a comment. Hello, JM. Yes, Freerun. I can't wait until next year when we get Freerun Season 2. I'm hoping it lives up to the hype. Like, it's as good as Season 1. Because if they do El Dorado at the same level of animation and effort they put into the end of Freerun Season 1, peak anime. Peak anime. 10 out of 10. Indisputable all-timer. Alcohol. Because I've had a week. So before we get started, I'm going to go on a little bit of a fucking rant here. Because I'm tired. Also, hello, Marcel. So, I'm pretty sure I've said this a couple of times around here, but I work like construction, remodeling, that kind of stuff. I build houses and fix houses effectively for a living. And this week was a job down a 200-foot long, 40-foot high hill. So the actual diagonal that you're traveling is like 200 feet downhill, and the drop is 40 feet. And we had to carry, not just like tools and lumber and all that stuff, but all the scrap that we were going. I was fucking tired. And then, of course, the boss decided that we were going to work the first half of today, trying to get things taken care of because we're building a shed down by a lake. And we want to get that done as fast as possible because everything's busy. So that means that I didn't catch up on quite everything that I wanted to check up on. I believe the slots that I did not hit were, again, Shoshimin, Moonrise, Windbreaker, To Be a Hero X, and Supercube. So I won't be talking about any of those tonight, but everything else I'm pretty much caught up on. I tried my best to catch up on it. As far as like everything else goes, my life turned to chaos because of court duty. that I never actually had to end up reporting for, but I could not make plans. I could not schedule anything. It was hard to manage my life because literally everything I had to do had to be uh built around this. Like you have to call in and check every single fucking day to see if you need to report in, and if I had to report in, it would have been to Chicago, which is like an hour and a half, an hour 45 minutes away. Lovely stuff. So this whole week just had me either exhausted or irritated. And I didn't quite get as much done as I would have liked. I did get out a couple of videos. I wanted to work on another like video essay for the Wednesday slot, but never ended up getting around to it because there was just so much going on, and the amount of work I had to put in to actually get that ready for Wednesday would have just kind of sucked. So I apologize. I fell short. It's always like whenever I decide I'm really going to knuckle down and do a bunch of stuff for YouTube, life goes chaotic. So tonight, let's enjoy some alcohol. I got a blueberry twisted tea with me because I'm an American and I enjoy like processed sugar and things that are terrible for your health. And cheers. Cheers. All right. Also, hello, muffler tape. Lurking. Also, yeah, have fun with that. That sounds worse than the hills around here. Yeah, that hill sucks. I'm gonna look like Guts or Joseph Joestar. I need to do a little bit more than just walking and carrying stuff up a hill to look like that. But it is goals. So how about we get started with this? Talking about anime. Because, well, this is the thing I do. This is the bulk of the show, and I'm sure everyone's curious to hear what I have to say because let's face it, that's the only reason you're here is to hear me ramble about what I've watched and how awful I think some of these things are. So, without further ado, let us begin the night by talking about the evil lord. I am the evil lord of an intergalactic empire. So, in this episode, we kind of get the whole pirate thing dealt with. Finally. I feel like they were kind of dragging that whole thing along and that they probably could have gotten to it faster. But it's been dealt with. Kind of. We don't really know whether the pirate fleet that ended up in the Imperial training ground is going to run away and escape or not, or what's going to happen with that. But Leon is basically just, or Liam, not Leon. Liam has basically decided he's going to go in and, crush the pirate base and loot all their treasure, which I'm assuming he's probably not going to find all that much treasure in there. Womp womp. I'm kind of disappointed because I would have liked a tad bit more confrontation with this episode and have it had been a bigger battle with the pirates. But I can kind of see why they would do it this way to sort of justify Liam's victory against overwhelming odds. It might have seemed a little like cliche and unbelievable if they had done it in a different way. And then of course we get left on a cliffhanger because they're just about to go into the pirate base, and well, we don't know exactly what's going to happen there and how Liam is going to respond to all of the people who have been abducted by these pirates up to this point. All in all, though, I feel like this episode I'm going to drop a couple because I feel like the lack of confrontation in it was a bit anticlimactic. The way that the main, like the captain of the fleet is dealt with in this episode and basically like sent to another part of the universe through a series of gags, I wasn't a huge fan of, but overall still really do like the show. I was hoping to see a proper battle with Liam actually, putting in some work there, but instead it was just ambush, destroy the fleet. All right, now time to loot. And that is effectively my thoughts on this episode this week. Still a good show. Still like it. It just sort of felt blue-balled by that. All right. Let us go next to the unaware Atelier Meister. So in this episode, as far as the unaware Atelier Meister, hold on. The whole pirate thing is wildly different than the manga. Wonder what's going to happen. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't read any of this show so far, or I haven't read any of this series so far. I've only watched the anime, so if it's different, I kind of wonder if it was done better in the manga or in the light novels. So, Unaware Atelier Meister. So, this episode of Unaware Atelier Meister, like how many more times can I say that? We have Kurt saving the priest girl. And now, while I'm not like totally opposed to that, because I do feel like there are certain tropes in like in fiction that I do like when someone does something terribly wrong and then comes to recognize it and repent of their actions and change their ways. I do like it when characters go through that sort of arc, a sort of villain redemption arcs thing. I like those sorts of things, but in this one, with Unaware Atelier Meister, it gets interrupted. Basically, as our priest girl is sitting there, like basically apologizing to Kurt, she gets dragged away by the secret police. Also, thanks for tuning in, JM. I appreciate it. Also, if you haven't hit that like button, I would appreciate that. Interesting. That sounds a whole lot more interesting than what happened. So yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that they interrupted the repentance scene for a gag, but so be it. It's not really like it's a super amazing show. A lot more people find out about like Kurt's abilities and all this, which is, I kind of figured. And then of course we end up having a brand new bad guy introduced into all of this. It's still just kind of an okay show, to be entirely honest, but I do enjoy it. It's one of those shows where like I get more enjoyment out of it than I should, because it is like one of those slop fantasies that you would expect to just like turn on and have a laugh at. It is absurd at times. It is ridiculous, yes, but fun nonetheless. I don't know how much longer I'll actually keep watching it though, because ultimately, like, it's one of those things where it kind of feels like it's going to be the same shtick over and over and over and over again. We're going to constantly get some of like the similar points. But all in all, like I said, it's one that I do enjoy. I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious how he just wipes the ancient demon summoning circle off of his mouth. Yeah, those are the kind of like ridiculous elements to this that do make it fun to watch, that do make it entertaining. But at some point, the allure of that will wear off. So how they're going to keep people sort of hooked into this show, I don't know. But it's not one that I would say is like super amazing, especially considering it has a very similar plot structure to several other anime, not just in this season, but in the past couple of seasons. So that's my thoughts on this week's episode of The Unaware Atelier Meister. I'm not moving it up or down. It's going to stay there just by its own merits. Which brings us to another one in the okay category. The beginning after the end. So at this point in the show, this might come as a shock to people for how harsh I was on it at first, but I'm marginally more interested in it at this point. The animation and the storytelling are still largely pretty ass. And I think a lot of things could have been handled better, but there are certain moments that actually do make me interested in it. Like the whole beast thing that's going on and him becoming the apprentice of like the former king of the elves. That part is interesting, but there's a lot of like plot convenience in here to just not keep that's like almost put in there to just not stress a bunch of people out over reading certain elements of it. Like the long distance communication spell thing. I feel like that was put in there to just sort of alleviate a plot point of Arthur not being able to contact his parents and them thinking he's dead. Just so that people don't sit here like, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, what's going to happen? Oh, what's going to happen? In some sense, I can understand because that part of it may end up distracting from how people like get into the story. It might end up distracting from the main plot. But at the same time, it felt like a cop-out on that plot point. A lot of the storytelling easily could have been handled better. And now there was a lot of people talking about how the anime has done so much damage that the author is quitting writing this. I don't know if that has anything to do whatsoever. The author is effectively, excuse me. From what I've heard, this series is ending within the next 12 chapters. I don't know how much that actually has to do with the anime. I think that might have been something that's been coming for quite a while. However, I do not think this anime has done a good job of conveying what this whole story should be. In fact, I think it's done a rather terrible job of it. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, if they want the payoff for that, they got to show the actual training arc. Otherwise, it's going to feel actually like even more of a cop out for all. Again, I'm going to judge it on an episode by episode basis, primarily. But I still have to take into account the whole series. With this one, it's not been a terribly amazing experience. It's just I feel like I've gotten more used to the level of ass that this story is. And I've kind of settled into being okay with watching it. It's going to stay here in the okay, and when we get to the end of the series, I'll give a full review of how I feel about this one. Easily could have been a much better anime if the studio had tried, or the producers had just had a few more brain cells to work with. But I like the fact that he connected with his parents, made it a lot easier to get integrated into the family again after the time skip. Yeah, sure. No, I understand why you would do that. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is to keep your readers and viewers in on the loop of it, kind of in a similar fashion, but just not having your viewers constantly worrying about something in the background that may or may not happen for a while. It doesn't feel right if they do not actually show a training arc to justify that scene. And it just feels like one of those things that is kind of, I don't know, out of place. I have mixed feelings about it because on the one term, I do like them actually showing some of like the family stuff in the midst here and how they all like are close enough to each other to care about their disappearance and try and reconnect and all that. That part is good. It's just that it still feels like a clunky addition to the story. All right. But that concludes the beginning after the end talk. We're going to move on to one where I have there are a couple that I'm going to probably drop tonight, but the one that will probably end up getting me into a bit of trouble is Catch Me in the Ballpark. Yes, I liked it last week. But after watching this week's episode, I'm not sure that I want to continue watching it. We're about halfway through the season, and I'm basically looking for like anime that I just don't feel like I'm really super invested in. And this is one of them. It certainly has its charm, but I don't think I want to keep watching it. Like I understand why some people might like to watch this. It's a similar reason to why I watch Shangri-La Frontier. The fact is that it gives me a sense of nostalgia as to when I used to play video games when I was in high school. But I did laugh at like the high school girl bit in this one where they're like in the back room cleaning and all that. That part was funny. But I don't think I want to continue watching Catch Me in the Ballpark. It's just it ain't it ain't a thing that I really want to watch right now. It isn't terrible, and given a chance, I'd probably just binge it, but I ain't interested. I'm not a big fan anyway. At some point in the manhwa, it totally dropped the ball for me, similar to Mushoku Tensei. I feel that. So Ballpark, I'm not going to watch anymore. I think I'm done with that one, and I am putting it aside for the season because I'm as much as I don't hate it, it's just not enough to keep me interested, especially with the amount of time I am going to need to invest to catch up on a couple of these other shows. Now let's talk about the fan service anime, the one that I'm sure everyone wants to watch. Please put them on Miss Takamine. So there were 2 episodes that released this week because Crunchyroll likes to just skip a week and then drop 2 episodes. I do not know what's going on with that. But holy shit, Crunchyroll is just doing everything they possibly can to murder this anime. Ugh. So in this episode, in these 2 episodes, we see a lot of Takamine being really nice to Shirota, especially in the section where she refuses to use her power so that he actually has a chance to like work hard for himself. We get the scene with the cat where it's literally the I thought you said you had a cat meow meme, and that's ultimately when Shirota seems to remember taking care of the cat and like this other girl that was around at the time, even though he still doesn't seem to like piece everything all the way together. And then like the house date, the fireworks, all of it, good stuff as far as like actual romance stuff, but they are really, really holding off on the relationship element because they've kind of put themselves the author kind of put themselves in a place where like you really can't progress too much with this show because at that point, Takamine's power, the whole thing that is like the crux of this show, stops working. So at this point, like they very clearly like have a thing for each other. It's just like neither of them is like fully connecting with the other because, well, they got to drag this shit out somehow. And that's kind of why I want to put this one at the top of the okay category. As much as its story is probably one on the better end of the ecchi that have come out this like past couple of years, not past couple of years, past couple of seasons. As much as its story is on the better end of the ecchi that have come out in the past couple of seasons, it still suffers from its own issues. It ain't perfect. And while I do like the fact that Takamine does have some like interesting work done with her, insofar as she seems really like controlling and demanding at first, but then as the more you get to know her, she's pretty, kind and innocent in a lot of ways that you wouldn't expect. But there's just too much more wrong with like this show for me to keep it in the category of like, yeah, it's an all right show. This one is like it's a watchable show. Well, she is trying, but he is too much of a coward to do anything. Any normal man would have jumped her a couple of times already. Yes. I do think that is one of the big problems is that the main character is a complete coward. And they only really do that to just, preserve Takamine's powers. And that's one of the things I do kind of find frustrating about this and about Yandere Dark Elf is there is no way that those main characters wouldn't fold in those situations. Like you cannot convince me that they wouldn't. It ain't happening, boy. It ain't happening. So that said, this one's moving down to the okay category because I don't really know if I want to keep it in the interesting category. I do like some of the characters. Well, I should say I like a character, Takamine, but everything else feels really generic romance or just knockoff softcore. And I'm getting really tired of them padding episodes with the butterfly scene. That part is getting obnoxious to me. That is true, and I guess we'll get to that. Oh, it looks like I skipped that one anyway, so I guess we'll get to that now. Yandere Dark Elf. So we get the vacation episode. We find out that the cat girl is a live streamer, and the priestess lady has decided to become a full-on businessman. And of course, you see that they both actually like approve of this relationship between Belle and Hinata. It's just that they need to make sure that things don't get too chaotic too quickly. And again, this is another one where I feel like the main character is a little bit too cowardly. On top of being, cock blocked by the rest of his party. There are just some parts of it that are kind of frustrating about it and reasons that I will not be putting it above the okay category from here on out. I do enjoy it. I do think it's a decent enough fan service anime. But I would under no circumstances go and say that it is amazing must watch or any of that. I only really watch it because elves, okay? That is the only reason that I watch it. I don't particularly feel compelled by the story or the characters in this. I'm not really like super duper invested in everything that's going on. There's not really much more to say about it. Other than like this episode, we do find out that the other two approve of their relationship, but for some reason have to cock block the poor kid. Like, damn. So yeah, the fan servicey anime go in the just okay category because when it comes to ecchi, the ecchi anime that focus more on being other genres than actual ecchi anime are always the better ones. Ooh. Okay. Two Perfect Saint. put out a video on this one today. We get the Mia episode this week. I did predict that Mia would stay in her country. Not really a super hard prediction to make. I feel like that was a pretty clear cut one that was going to happen. We do find out a whole lot about what is actually going on and where the plot is headed. So we find out that the prince is a total, complete dickhead and a retard. He thinks, women should basically be barefoot, pregnant, and quiet. I forget how that quote goes. He basically thinks women are inferior. But we do get Mia actually plotting the full-on revenge part of the story. And that is the much more interesting part of this to me. Sure, it's nice to get the heartwarming, relaxing, chill stuff with Philia, but the more interesting part of the plot seems to revolve around Mia and everything that is going down in the First Kingdom, because the prince is about to do some really, really dumb shit that you should never, ever, under any circumstances do. So I enjoyed this episode. It didn't focus a whole lot on Philia. It spent a whole lot of time setting up more plot stuff. Plus, we get introduced to some rather interesting characters very briefly in this episode with the exorcist girl with the sword and her demon familiar, who happens to be related somehow to the archdemon that everyone is afraid of. I thought it was a good episode, but this show still isn't clearing the interesting category for me. It's still not one that I think I absolutely need to move up. It's just an interesting show. It's enjoyable, but it is kind of generic in a lot of ways. It doesn't do anything too terribly special. So, it won't go down, but it won't go up either. It's going to stay right there at the top of interesting. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Brilliant Healer. I better not be muted. Okay, I was about to say. Holy. I was about to say, Pilgrim. Oh boy. Cheers. Ranting and raving about anime as I slowly get drunk on stream. Yeah, I got a bunch more alcohol to drink tonight if I really need to. All right, let's talk the Brilliant Healer in depth here. So this episode, we get the golem fight, where the guide has basically decided to turn Aston. I forget what his actual name is. I forget exactly how it's pronounced because I just don't care. Are you going for liver failure by 50? No, not really. I actually drink surprisingly little. This is the first time in the last night and today are the first time in I don't know how long that I've actually had alcohol. I do not usually drink. But this week has had me feeling like I need a couple, so here we are. I have a complaint as far as this anime goes, as far as the Brilliant Healer's New Life in the Shadow goes. This feels like an end of season kind of episode this week. It feels like it ties off a lot of plot points and leaves you on the kind of end of season cliffhanger you would expect, which we know it's not because it's only about halfway through. You basically have Xenos deciding that he's actually going to fight someone seriously for once and just doing a bunch of ridiculous shit as you would expect from this story archetype. And then he basically spares his old friend, beats the shit out of him. It is literally the hot rod plot where I gotta save you so I can kick your ass. It is basically Rod saving his stepfather so that he can beat the shit out of his stepfather. That is what this episode is. It is Zeno saving Aston so that he can beat the shit out of Aston and cut ties with him. And while I did enjoy it, it still doesn't really prove to be a super amazing episode. And this show has this weird thing of making it feel like the episodes are in the wrong place. It really, really makes this whole thing feel like there's something wrong with the way it was put together. Like the first episode was something that feels like it should have been the last episode. The sixth episode now feels like it's something that should have been the last episode. Whoever is in charge of this is not wise. I would not advise them being in charge of a whole lot of projects in the future because some of these decisions just don't make sense to me. But I don't want to really move it around. I'm not dropping it. I still kind of enjoy it. It's just, it's there. Okay, so now we get to the best of the season. The Apothecary Diaries. With this episode, things are really, really starting to heat up. And I'm going to talk about this in as few spoilers as possible. We get an entire episode without Mao Mao, but holy shit, do we learn a lot about what's going on. Like, the Apothecary Diaries has just been like bombshell after bombshell after bombshell these past couple of weeks. Like, it has been cooking with everything that it's been doing. It has been fantastic all the way through. We get a little bit of stuff with the strategist going a little bit berserk. So we get the impression that he really genuinely does care about his daughter. But he's still a piece of shit dad. I'm wondering how they're going to resolve all this within the next, how many episodes do we got? Like 9? This seems like a really, really big plot point, or like a really, really huge point in the season to get through before everything ends. But knowing how well the Apothecary Diaries has performed across the past season in, 2/3, I expect that it will probably do some really, really good stuff. And yes, who would expect that Lakan would become the comedic relief? Angry Jinshi, like you can tell he is really riled up over everything that's happened. More and more, the previous emperor is a real heinous person. Like the more and more they talk about him, he is just awful. And I like the way that they've written this character, the way they have like presented him as basically this like enabled evil. He does a lot of fucked up stuff that has caused a lot of these problems. And now everyone is left to clean up after his mess because he had some issues, dude. And that's putting it lightly. When I say issues, I mean some like Diddy issues. All that said, again, the Apothecary Diaries has been cooking well. Like, it is consistently these past couple of weeks just taking it to the next level with each episode. I get to the point where like I'm genuinely thinking like, okay, how do they top it from here? And it does somehow. It has another good episode. It is consistently up the ante with all of the reveals, with everything that it's done, with its storytelling, with its plot progression. It's just so fucking good. And if you're not watching this, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, it's fantastic. It is fantastic anime. Yeah, I do feel sorry for all the former victims. It doesn't make it right what those people are doing. True. Yeah. Well, yeah, considering I think she's been I'll keep that spoiler free for if anyone watches this and then decides to go check out the Apothecary Diaries, but bottom line is, I mean, yeah, the previous emperor and his crimes do not justify everything else that's going on. Because that is basically just if that is the justification, that is basically just, BS, because it really has nothing to do with the current state of things. Well, I should say the current state of things really has nothing to do with what you're planning. You are basically plotting revenge on a bunch of people who had nothing to do with the actions that affected you. I I just feel gross every time they mention the late emperor because who. But yeah, this I don't think there should be any argument that that this is the best anime of the season. And the Apothecary Diaries is hands down the best of the season. And the only thing that I think actually has a similar level of like quality has been Coulon Generic Romance. Well, actually, the top three here, with Sword of the Demon Hunter as well, all three of those have been spectacular. But it still goes to the Apothecary Diaries for being the best written, most intriguing, and well delivered on show of the season. Speaking of delivery, let's talk about Fire Force. Oops. Okay. So with this episode, we get a lot of action. And the studio is starting to step up their animation game from, the last couple of weeks, which have been terribly disappointing. Last week's was okay. It was getting better. This week's was much better, although it still suffers in the animation department because there are some things that feel really clunky, particularly with certain scenes where Burns is on the offensive in this battle. I did like the fight because it did start to capture some of the easily the best episode of the season. Why is that Joker guy not doing anything though? Yeah. Sorry. Combination of alcohol and trying to keep up with the conversation ain't helping. Yeah, so far this has been the best episode of the season. It had the best animation, it had the best choreography, it took advantage of Shinra's powers and his abilities the best. It delivered something that actually had me interested in the show. But Joker standing aside effectively comes down to, I'm going to respect the duel. I'm going to respect that Shinra is taking this on head on. It's a dumb decision because you're there to win, not to, honor someone by some like code of battle honor or whatever. You're there to win. You're there to beat the enemy. You should be doing everything you possibly can. But for some reason, Joker just decides, yeah, I'm going to fucking sit out because I don't have anything to do with this. Sorry. Just ignore the crinkling, okay? There are times where it's a bit choppy. There are times where the animation, the choreography kind of suck. But it was a decent fight scene. I saw a lot of people saying this is the best fight scene of the season. Like, this is amazing. This is peak. This is awesome. Fire Force is back. No. First of all, best fight scene of the season? It's not even the best fight scene of the week. You still have to contend with let's see here. There was Yaiba. That one had a good fight scene. Lazarus has good animation and fight scenes. Even from Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman had a better fight scene. In my personal opinion. There have been plenty of better fight scenes this season, this week. I think I need to start eating something because I haven't eaten like all day. And I'm really starting to feel it in my head after drinking all of that. Okay. I'll try to keep that to a minimum. Still, a lot of people will say that like Fire Force's animation sucks. It isn't as bad as the beginning after the end, okay? It's not amazing, but it's not the worst of the season. I'm looking forward because as these things are heating up, pun intended, Fire Force has started to really, get better as far as the animation goes. They disappointed with the first several episodes, but now that we've gotten to Arthur versus Dragon was okay. This episode was probably the best one with the best choreography and the best use of Shinra's powers. Both could have been better, easily. And then, of course, right at the end, we have Benimaru showing up, which I love Benimaru as a character in the series. I think he's fucking awesome. People who say that haven't watched To Be Hero X. Yeah, that's another one that I do need to catch up on. I'm still only one episode into that. All right. Since we were mentioning it earlier, Kulon Generic Romance is the next one we have on the list. So, I forget who it was that mentioned it or who was questioning it, but about Yao Mei's transformation in the last episode. But this one genuinely did confirm that her appearance actually changed in that moment. So her appearance was affected by her perception of herself. Which I think does imply some pretty crazy things about what's going on. Like, basically, generic Terra is kind of warping reality around these people. We also get a lot of like exposition dump as to what generic Terra actually does and how it stores memories and replicates things as they were. Very interesting sort of thing. It kind of starts to like make you question exactly what's going on with this whole thing. But then we learn even more about what's going on. Like, Kulon in and of itself is a mysterious entity. Because supposedly this is a city that has already been torn down, yet it's being kept intact. This episode was a massive mindfuck. So, it did also confirm that Kujirai is a clone. I think it confirmed that. I don't know. It kind of is a little bit dodgy. But it seems to sort of imply that Kujirai, the original Reika Kujirai, died and that this version is the clone. Although there are some things about her that seem to suggest that she's not actually a clone. It's weird. I'm wondering exactly what's going on with all of this. That's why I say this is one of the only ones that actually is close in quality to the Apothecary Diaries, because it's got a good mystery to it. It's got really good characters, an interesting world, and it's like development of that mystery through that world has made things really interesting. And especially with this latest episode, we get a lot of developments that I would just imagine are only going to get weirder and weirder as time goes on, because it feels like every episode we get new questions. So like we just have like a whole checklist going. Like there's a bunch of stuff like that they keep adding to make you more and more confused, and I love it. It's so good. Like genuinely, Kulon generic romance is one of the best anime to air this season. Outside of the Apothecary Diaries, this is probably my favorite. Scratch that, it is my favorite. I love this show. And the next one we'll talk about it is right behind it with Sword of the Demon Hunter, because episode 6. What another banger episode. Like, this anime is genuinely way better than I had ever imagined it would be. I will say I was kind of right about the girl and the soba vendor being suspicious. It's just I was totally wrong in the way that they were suspicious. Pardon me, I got the hiccups now. Let me solve that by drinking more alcohol. Yes, it was a great twist at the end. And honestly, I love the way that a lot of these things, even though it is presented as like a very dark and grim world, a lot of these things do have some pretty wholesome and moving resolutions to them. That's why I say this series is really good. Is there's a lot of like fine detail to it that makes it super appealing. I love how they use the powers in it and incorporate that into the storytelling and like the character work and like tie it all together. It's just one really excellent uh experience. That's the word I'm looking for. It is one very excellent experience, and one for if you enjoy good storytelling, if you enjoy good writing, this is one of the ones you should be watching this season, because all three of these top 3 that I have right here, these are like the best written series running right now, if you ask me. Like as far as seasonals go, I think you absolutely should be watching these 3. At the very least. Well, let's move on down the list, because, I mean, I could glaze this whole thing all day, but all I really need to say is it delivers on everything it does so well with its storytelling. Like, I don't think it's really missed a single episode. It has not had a single episode that has been a miss or felt dodgy to me. Even last week's one, which was pretty transitional, was still really good, and the setup for all of the for episode 6 here was important. So let's talk about the next one on the list. Can a boy-girl friendship survive? I'm dropping this one. After a lot of thinking and after watching the latest episode, I have determined that I just don't care. Kind of along the lines of my rant from last week about love triangles and all the drama that is artificially injected into this series. I feel like there's just a bunch of stuff going on here that is needlessly frustrating to me. I said it on Twitter. This would be a great series. This would be a perfect series without the love triangle. If you removed the first crush from this, I would enjoy this so much more with just you and Himari. Because that part I do genuinely find entertaining. That part I think is hilarious. Or if you just remove the romance part between you and Rion altogether, and they're just, people who are around each other, and she's a friend of Himari's. Because she does add some comedic value to it. I just don't like this will they, won't they, back and forth love triangle BS. I'm done with it. So I'm putting it in the not for me category. I am done with it. I am washing my hands. I want nothing more to do with this series. Because it has effectively devolved into one of the things I genuinely just don't like. Yeah, I get it. Well, the girls are cute, so I'll still continue. I respect it. It's just I don't want to be fed up at the end because this is headed in a direction I don't like. And that is effectively where I am. And I'm just calling it quits before I'm pissed off at wasting all of my time on something like that. So it's going in the not for me category. I probably will never touch this again. Yaiba. Let's talk about Yaiba. Because this is one I actually do genuinely like. After, I don't know, 1 or 2 weeks of decent enough episodes, it's had its good run so far. It came back with a really, really good episode with Bat Guy. Oh, hello, the questioners. How are you? The whole fight with Bat Guy was fun. And all of that leading to Yaiba taking his training much more seriously was good development. It's one of those things, much like Medalist did a good job with Inori's second competition and how she placed on the podium but didn't win to show that she still had a long ways to go. This did a really good job of giving Yaiba a victory, but also proving to him that there was a long way for him to develop. The animation was a bit choppy at times. Genuinely, probably could have been much more smoother. Much more smoother. Double positive there. My English skills are amazing when I'm drinking. Speaking of alcohol. Cheers, kanpai. I don't know how to say it in any other language. But it's still an overall solid fight scene in this. It's still an overall solid battle in this episode. I liked it. Yaiba thought a little bit outside of the box. Well, not outside of the box. Yaiba thought a little bit about the things he was doing. And overall, I really did enjoy it. Now, because I didn't get to Windbreaker this week, it's going to be there. But I assume by the time I get caught up and through the Keel arc, this will probably shoot back up to number 4 or 5. Frost. Yeah, this is another one that's really, really good as far as like just shonen action anime. I like it. It has delivered very well on all the things that it kind of came to the table with. All right. A rank party. You'll have to excuse me because I am not like I'm not even bilingual. I know a little bit of like a couple of languages. And if I have to roll my R's, I'm terrible at that because I was raised by hillbillies, okay? I am a country bumpkin from the middle of the United States. So A rank party. I do genuinely enjoy this series. And I felt like it was riding a high there for a little while. But I do not think that I can keep it into the very good category because as it's gone on, I have kind of I don't know. I feel like it's kind of started to fall off and become a similar thing. I've complained a bit about how it's reusing plot points at times. And while I don't hate harems, I actually like harems. I feel like this one is kind of devolving into generic harem anime tropes and not really being super like amazing about working with them. Of course, we get Jamie back in this episode, which is all right. You know, bigger harem is more fun, 100 girlfriends and all. But I'm putting this one back down in the interesting category because it's one of those ones where I do enjoy it, but I don't think I can justify it being in the very good category. It had a really good run in the middle there. It did get up there. But I feel like it's kind of come back down after that high. So that's going to go back in the interesting category. And we'll move on to the next one. Master Swordsman. Now, this one, I really do like Master Swordsman this week. I thought it had a really good, even if it was short, it had a really good fight scene this week, I think. We got some solid plot movement with this and some decent world building, a few wholesome moments. It was a good smattering of a bunch of different things. Beryl gets his new sword. But really the highlight of this was Beryl fighting the like the head knight guy for the church. And that part I really enjoyed because that actually showed that he has like a lot of skill and know-how when it comes to sword fights. And the part of that entertained me is that even though like he wasn't using any sort of ridiculous skills, he just has solid training with a sword. So he was able to win that fight because he knows how to use a sword. I like that, especially considering the way they animated it, the way they delivered on it. I wish they would have made it a little bit longer of a fight, but oh well. There were some good like character moments in there, especially for like him taking Mui under his wing and like dealing with her reanimated sister and all, but we do get some ominous sort of like foreshadowing as to like why all of this shit was going on with the dead corpses and all that. Of the interesting category, this is like this week, this is probably my favorite as of this week. I've enjoyed it more than I thought I would, even though some of its episodes aren't particularly the best. Okay. So we'll move on from Master Swordsman, from Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman. and we'll go to Witch Watch. We'll jump all the way back up to the top here. And this is the last one in this category that we'll be touching. So we get the teacher's obsession. The whole gag about her being a real, like a crazy otaku for this one series. And her favorite fan artist being one of her students. And she tries really, really hard not to get outed, but ends up getting outed anyway. That part was funny to me. I really did enjoy that. The Poop Man thing, not really very fun, but the whole very funny to me. But the whole like Invisible Man part of it was entertaining. I thought that part was kind of funny, where like he can go invisible and be completely unnoticed as long as he like has his hands in a certain position, but his hand being in that position prevent him from doing anything that he'd actually want to do while he's invisible. I thought this was going to be like turning into some sort of like pervert trope where he was going to use the invisibility. To like peep on people. But no, they actually used it for the proper thing. So it was a good, like it was genuinely a funny episode. But the real part of this that the part of this that I really liked, alcohol. Speaking of which, let's finish this off. Make my head spin more. Okay, the cat girl invasion. That was the part of this that I really did enjoy. The other witch who really, really, really wants to make Moi or Mojito her familiar, but it is like genuinely developing a crush on the guy as she's basically stalking her. Yeah, I agree. The cat girl was the best part of this. Like it was the funniest part of that whole episode. And then she just like casually like walks out the back door while they're all distracted by the the blonde guy's figurine, or I forget exactly what was going on. But he was doing some sort of collectible or whatever, and genuinely a solid episode of Witch Watch. I did like it. I'm liking it more and more as it's gone on. All right. Anne Shirley. So in this episode of the anime adaptation of the classic novel, pardon me, we get Anne writing a novel which people find funny, and she takes very seriously because, pardon that, the whole proposal thing. Gilbert realizes that he really, really fucked up in teasing her over her hair color, and Anne decides to try and dye her hair. Now, that part was the funniest part to me of this episode, was her trying to dye her hair black because she hates having red hair, and then accidentally turning it green. Most of the rest of the episode was just, your stereotypical shenanigans. And this is another one where I think like it's good, but I'm going to put it in the interesting category now. What was the funny part though? I have to know. I find it entertaining, her getting into all this trouble because of her own lack of knowledge, I guess. As far as this series goes, it's one of those ones where like I initially really liked it, but as it's gone on, like as much as I do enjoy Anne getting herself into trouble because, well, she's basically a hyperactive child. Basically, she is a hyperactive child. there comes a point where I basically have to say, well, yeah, I mean, it's okay, but it's not like the most amazing thing. I initially really liked it because the concept of it, the idea of taking a classic novel and animating it, and the art style, and the animation in of itself have all been really good. But as far as like enjoyment that I've gotten out of it, it's interesting. Nothing really. I think funny was probably the wrong word to be using to describe that scene. I thought it was an entertaining bit. But yeah, this one's going down to the interesting category. It's a solid entry, but not the most amazing of the season. Kind of starting to. Yeah, I do agree. It's decent, but the novelty kind of wore off. That's kind of where I'm at. Is the novelty is wearing off. I'm using the wrong mouse. So that's where Anne Shirley's going to go. It's going to be in the interesting category. An assassin and a ninja under one roof. The first question I got to ask about this season, this week's episode, is where the fuck did the budget go? Because they used a lot of like real world shots. And now I have to wonder if that's for the comedic part of it, because they did use the paper cutouts of the characters in one scene. And I feel like that was heavily involved in the comedic elements of this. But there were some scenes where they were like going over food, where they used real world shots of food instead of actually animating it within the show. Other than that, though, this this episode was funny because it is effectively just the ninja getting cucked by a robot version of herself. And they somehow managed to make it oddly depressing when she gets rid of the robot at the end. Because everyone just ends up depressed that the robot is gone. But at the same time, it's like kind of depressing to watch your main character get cucked by a robot. Poor Roboco, yes. Either way, this was one of my like favorite episodes of this whole thing. It was just the entire episode. Konoha just didn't even seem to understand that the robot was not the real one. I thought it was funny, but at the same time, oddly depressing at the end. Like every one of these episodes is oddly depressing at the end. I don't know how you managed to make a comedy that is both really funny and then oddly depressing at the end. The NTR episode. Yeah, I guess that's true. Oh. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Lazarus, because there were 2 episodes that have come out since the last time I watched. So we got episode 5 and 6. So with episode 5, we get the whole fake vaccine thing and the worst side character in the whole series. Popcorn Wizard can fuck off and never be involved in anything ever again. Fuck that. I hated that character. Like, that was genuinely an awful character. The elevator scene with Axel, where he just kind of walks into the building and then beats the shit out of security in the elevator, that was good. I did like that part of episode 5, but the Popcorn Wizard part was bullshit. With Lazarus, there's also an issue of, like, I feel like they're side questing too much. Where, like, every episode, they seem to, like, just go on a side quest rather than pursue the main plot. And it goes nowhere. It does them nothing. Storytelling-wise, I get what Shinichiro Watanabe is doing. He is filling out the world that it's set in. all of these side quests lead to some sort of display to depict humanity as almost deserving to die. Because in every one of these episodes, it outs a very awful part of humanity. Like the pharmaceutical companies hiding research or hiding information that would they don't like getting out there in the public. These clubs exploiting people and allowing people to get drugged and all that. That's another part of it. The cult in episode 6. I'm sorry, I'm tweaking at my own notes here. Sorry. This one has gotten a little bit rough with the last couple of episodes. I do like the side questing, what it does as far as like, showing how Skinner sort of perceives the world in all of this, and it gives you the perspective of, is humanity really worth saving? But at the same time, I feel like the plot has gone nowhere. Like, it has genuinely not gotten anywhere. So it's going down to the very a couple, not just a couple. It's going down 3. I still think it's a good series overall because it is solidly written, and I do see kind of what the author is doing with a lot, or what the writers are kind of doing with this. I like the animation, I like the characters, but if you want to call it filler the anime, I can't say I disagree with that assessment. It genuinely has trouble moving its main plot forward. At least with other Shinichiro Watanabe projects, like Cowboy Bebop, like Samurai Champloo. Either they did not need the plot to be moved forward all the time, or they constantly were moving the plot forward because the plot was them traveling to a location. And all they really had to do was change the setting every episode to accelerate the plot. With this one, you would think that they would continue to find some more information on Skinner, but all of this that they have done so far has done nothing to reveal what's going on with Skinner. That, I can understand why people would be a little frustrated with this. So that's my assessment of Lazarus as of week 6. Let's move on to Aharon-san season 2. So with this episode, we get the beach episode, the swimsuit episode, and the beach episode, which is entertaining in and of itself. Really, I think the big thing that's of note here was the other two friends, the brown-haired dude and the black-haired chick, seem to have like something, or seem to have had something going, or have something going. There's something between them, and they act really like awkwardly around each other at a couple of instances in this episode. But all in all, I don't really think there was a huge in my notes, I have change written here. What the fuck does change mean? I need to be better with this because look, drunk me needs to be able to read my fucking notes. I have no idea what change means. Tangent, that doesn't matter. So as far as this goes, the bit about Aharon, like them taking a photo of Aharon's swimsuit was entertaining, and some of the other beach stuff was kind of funny. But all in all, it's just kind of a beach episode in no special fashion. LMFAO. I genuinely don't know. I don't know what change means. It like if I could pull this up, it literally just so my notes are literally Aha in season 2. Beach episode. Change. The two friends have something going. One of my 3 bullet points for this episode was change. What the fuck was I going through? I remember they have that whole conversation about how things could change between them, but they'd still be together. That's what that note was about. It was basically like, yeah, sure, we're going to change as time goes on, but that won't affect us because, I care about you. That was it. Midlife crisis. Bitch, I'm 25. I am only 25. This ain't a midlife crisis. All right. The shitty note taking is a problem for future Crimson. Current drunk Crimson doesn't give a fuck. Well, I do give a fuck, but not enough fucks. All right, we got a couple more to get through tonight, so let's see if we can seal the deal here. Vigilantes. Let's talk about My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Bold to assume that 25 isn't in the middle of your life. Wow, you guys assume you guys think I'm going to be dead by 50? Holy shit. Oh. Fucking hell. You guys have like no faith in me, huh? I don't even have a clip to play for that. All right. So Vigilantes, we get introduced to Judgment in this. Liver failure by 50. This is also bullshit because I explained earlier, I do not drink very often whatsoever. Like literally in the past, I don't know how many weeks I have had one hard lemonade and a twisted tea. That is the amount of alcohol I have consumed, and it has been yesterday and today. So you can fuck right off. I need to talk about My Hero Academia. Okay, Vigilantes. So we get introduced to a new vigilante, Judgment, who is out to kill a bunch of people because he will not tolerate the baddies in the street. We get a little bit of backstory on Pop Step. Yeah, I was actually going to get to that. As far as this episode goes, like the backstory for Koichi and learning how he's a bit of an outcast because of like a complete misunderstanding that he created for himself. And then Pop Step's backstory and her being a bit of a tsundere as well. All of that was really good this episode. I really enjoyed those parts of it. It got really interesting as we kind of see Judgment taking to the streets and like killing people. So kind of like a proto Stain, it almost feels like. Or is Judgment actually Stain? And that this is like his origin story. That could be interesting. Either way, really good episode for My Hero Academia Vigilantes. I liked the Pop Step stuff. I liked Koichi's a little bit of lore drop on it. And overall, pretty good. All right, we got 2 left. And then we got articles to cover. So let's talk about the Apocalypse Hotel. It's the booze episode. They run out of alcohol in this episode and they decide to make some. And that part was kind of funny where they go through the whole like drinking party thing. In this episode, I like that the whole family finally decided to get involved with helping out at the hotel for a bit and like making alcohol and everything. Ponko is the daughter, Ponko, is still the most involved in everything that's going on. But the rest of the family has at least started to like redeem themselves a little bit, even if they were just motivated by having more alcohol to get drunk off of. And then of course we have the sexy robot mode that happens when she starts drinking. Made me wonder how old those Tanuki aliens get. Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I think it's just something where the author's never going to really answer it. Overall, a good episode. Like, I did genuinely enjoy this one. I won't move it up or down. I'm just going to kind of stay there. Really, the major part of it that was fun to me was just that was of interest to me was just the family, like, you know, not being total pieces of shit the whole time. We also get to learn that some of the aliens apparently have a bunch of common languages now. So the Tanuki people were able to teach our main character, the robot girl, how to speak a bunch of alien languages. So that was interesting. But this is one that I didn't expect to like as much as I did. The last one on the list, though, is Food for the Soul. The food anime that has less to do with food anime and 5 airheads faffing about in Japan. So we get the whole driving test scene where where 2 of the girls are trying to get their license. That part was funny. Was entertaining to me with like the whole like studying about driving and all that. I enjoyed that. Nana is still the funniest character and how she is terrible at handling strangers, but the moment she gets to know someone, she is like super friendly and like oversharing and everything. Still, though, this is one that I may end up dropping because as much as I do enjoy Food for the Soul, it's one of the ones that holds my attention less. So it may be one that I end up putting into the watch later category because I'm not as interested in it as many of the other shows that are going on here. And that's all I think I really have to say about it. It's genuinely wholesome fun. It's a bunch of like airheaded moments and very little to do with food in the overall scheme of things. It's just a lot of like gags and a few of the girls being stupid. So that is this week's anime. Hold on, let me take a screenshot of this. And we can move on to something else. Really, like I said, the big winners have been the Apothecary Diary, Coulon Generic Romance, and Sword of the Demon Hunter. Other ones that had really good episodes this week would be Yaiba, Vigilantes, Fire Force, Country Bumpkin. Some of the other ones that I still need to catch up on. First episode had probably the most food. Yes, true. But I think that pretty much sums up all of this week's anime that I have watched. Might not end up streaming tomorrow. If I do, who knows what it's going to be. but I kind of want to get some of the other stuff that I'm behind on caught up. I want to check out a couple more episodes of Moonrise before I determine whether I'm going to drop it or not. I have Windbreaker that I absolutely do need to catch up on. And then, of course, the Chinese stuff with To Be Hero X and Super Cube. I guess I have to check those out because a lot of people talk about those. But this is where I'm at this week. Hopefully next week I have more to say about all this stuff. But for now, I appreciate you joining me on that. We are going to move on to the news to talk about part of the today's title, the Crypto Bros and Gooners. So, South Korean residents call police about over-sexualized anime figures. This is going to be a very interesting article. And by the way, that's hot. She just hot, okay? Like, absolutely would. South Korean residents of Hwasong City are incensed over a popular anime figure depicting a woman wearing a skin-tight dress with a plunging neckline. It's a good figurine, yeah. Honestly, I kind of want to get one of these. The figure, which has been called Dongtan Missy, is allegedly based on the social stereotype of women from that neighborhood. The figure is based on the artwork of K. Pring and features a character with seductive narrow eyes and wearing a face mask. And now when they say South Korean residents, they're probably talking about their radical like, oh shit, really? Maybe not. It's illegal in Korea. Huh. You learn something new. According to a Mail Business newspaper, individuals have been contacting law enforcement in South Korea in order to have the figure pulled from sale, both in store and online. Part of the Dongtan Missy stereotype is that due to the neighborhood's affluence, giving the appearance of a young but sophisticated married woman. South Korea has an infamously reactionary okay, here's the part that I was going to say. Their feminist movement over there is they're like legitimately crazy. Like you think the US has crazy feminists, the South Korean feminists are even crazier. Feminist movement, which regularly comes after anime and video games for what they consider to be insulting depictions of women. The figure is available at the relatively affordable $60 to $90 price range, depending on which store you buy it from. Let me just add that to my shopping list here. Really, I gotta stop punching my mic. One day when I have my own house and I can set the recording room up the way I want to, I'm having the mic on the other end, so I punch it less because holy shit, I punch my mic a lot. So yeah, imagine being really, really upset because there's a plastic figure with giant fucking like those are some amazing knockers right there. Like I am totally down to just bury my face in those. But imagine being upset that this is on sale. Like what? Because she has giant boobs? That's fucking retarded. And this is effectively the problem with the way everyone reacts to this kind of content is like there are a bunch of retards out there who label stuff like this porn. So then is Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop porn? I'd be willing to bet that we basically have an issue of, like they said, South Korea's infamously reactionary feminist movement, the 4B movement or whatever it was. They're kind of insane. I'd be willing to bet that they're really like the driving force behind this. Probably unrealistic body standard. Yeah, that's probably true. True. They're just jealous of her. Yeah. Uh, again, probably true. You have a bunch of land whales who are just jealous of idealized women in fiction who don't actually exist. It's kind of funny. But that's really all there is to say about it. Is we just have a bunch of retards freaking out over this anime figurine. So let's move on to the next one. My anime list has been bought out by a blockchain and AI technology company. So, Gaudi Inc., the new owner of anime and manga database and social network website My Anime List, have vowed to do right by fans in public statement shared by a site lead admin. Korea has one of the highest per capita plastic surgeries, so I don't know if it's unattractive people complaining. Interesting. So Korea decided to take a page out of the Kardashian book. Got it. It was announced in late May 2025 that Media Do Holdings has sold all of its shares in My Anime List to Gaudi, a Tokyo-based AI and blockchain company. Gaudi confirmed today that My Anime List's previous shareholders have now transferred all shares, making Gaudi its sole owner. However, Gaudi has also raised 10 billion yen from Sony Group Corporation and Bandai Namco Holding Inc. in a third-party share allotment. They really want to be white. I don't know about that. In a statement shared by My Anime List lead admin Kineta, Gaudi Inc. co-founder and CEO Yuta Ishikawa clarified that using technology in a way that goes against that goal or doing anything that would upset or disappoint fans is not what we or the Gaudi team ever intend. Many young people get plastic surgery as a gift from their family when they become. What the fuck? I feel like I need to drink a whole can just off of learning that. Oh no. Shit. It's kind of fucked up. Anyway. Cheers, you're ugly, go fix it. So yeah, we'll continue on with the article. The admin's post also stated that the goal of Gaudi moving forward will be to fully implement new features that were introduced within the past few years but remain incomplete, such as expanded profile statistics, and interest stacks, fantasy anime leagues, better mobile support, and more. Oh, their mobile app for My Anime List is atrocious. It is horrendous. Also, hello, RG Energy. Nice to see you. Seeking to allay fears involving changes to do with the potential implementation of artificial intelligence and blockchain technology on My Anime List. The post further stated that much of the community feels one or more of the following: NFTs are scams, generative AI is killing artists' livelihoods, blockchain is killing the planet. Web3 is a pipe dream. I'm not trying to say those opinions or concerns are invalid. What I'm trying to say is just because a parent company explores using those technologies doesn't mean those technologies are suddenly going to end up on my list. There are legitimate uses for like all of these technologies, NFTs, AI, blockchain. I think a lot of people do genuinely overreact to a lot of those things, but some concerns are valid. Like when you talk about AI, that AI dub of Supercube is pretty atrocious. Addressing the future of my anime list following the acquisition, the admin post continued. Gaudi is the fourth company to acquire my anime list. What makes this acquisition unique is that we will not be losing the experience and knowledge gained previously. Hopefully, this means we should be able to escape from the growing pains we've had to go through in the past acquisitions. With new owners and new investments, we hope to be able to get back to improving various features and your user experience. Yeah, as far as what NFTs got used for, they genuinely were kind of retarded, like the art stuff. But there is a legitimate use case to them. It's just not for like verifying digital art and making millions on that. That whole thing was fucking retarded. This is still the beginning of a new chapter in Mal's history, so it's still too early to say definitively what will be tackled first. I still hope we can look forward together with cautious optimism. My anime list admin post ended by asking users about the number one improvement they would like to see following Gaudi's acquisition. As of writing, members have responded with the likes of improved mobile support and statistics, addition of anime-ish animations that aren't typically considered anime by my anime list standard, such as Castlevania, and not just start chilling NFTs. As far as my anime list goes, I would like them to implement some sort of system to check the way people will manipulate numbers on series by creating multiple accounts to upvote or downvote a show, and like en masse, like fucking with a rating. Because as much as I like Frieren, I believe half the reason it is only the number one anime on that site, or half the reason it is the number one anime on that site, is the fact that people did go and like artificially boost the numbers just to ensure that it would be number one. And there are genuine issues with the rating systems on my anime list, and the mobile app is awful. It is horrendous. And yes, this is the Crypto Bros part of tonight's news segment. Review bombing is dumb, yes. And that's one thing that I would hope they would fix. But if they fix the mobile app, that would be amazing. I would really genuinely like that. Because holy crap, their mobile app is awful. And I think I'm going to make this the last news topic of the night. This last article here. Because I'm kind of getting to the point of just, I need to stop. So we'll switch over to this and we'll start talking about the last thing of the night. Review bombing on both sides is retarded, both positive and negative. Just genuinely give it an honest review. So here we go with tonight's next Gooner section. some generations within our industry that view anime as corn. Former Crunchyroll producer gives insight into Hollywood perceptions on anime. I've already said porn, so I don't know why I'm censoring myself here. Animation producer Marissa Balkis, credited for introducing Onyx Equinox, or producing Onyx Equinox at Crunchyroll, and overseeing Netflix's animation slate of titles like Arcane Season 2 and Devil May Cry, spoke on the perception of anime within Hollywood. When asked whether there were common misconceptions, Balkis said via the Brandon Violetta YouTube channel, what's the difference between being review bombed and being displeased with the direction of actions or companies? Well, here's the thing. With my anime list, it's a little bit more clear cut because a lot of people will just brigade series because they want their favorite to be on top. It has nothing to do with like disliking companies. You're talking about a more Western problem. When we're talking about Eastern stuff with anime, generally it is a concerted effort within a fandom to try and pump their favorite series to number one, or just devalue a series that they don't like. Full Metal Alchemist gets regular bursts of people downvoting it because it gets a lot of hype on the internet. Freerin got positive review bombing because people wanted it to be number one. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. Being genuinely displeased with something that a company does or with a property is one thing, and you're kind of arguing something I don't really think we have a good way of determining a difference between, outside of being able to get into someone's head and understand their motive for doing so. So review bombing is something that is purely done just because you want to see a series crash and burn regardless of your actual honest opinion of it. That would effectively be the difference. All right, let's continue on with this article. They tried to tell me that doesn't happen anymore when I asked on Dandanon, and I laughed at it. Yeah, it genuinely does. Like, even people within the ReZero fandom have constantly talked about review bombing other series just so that they can try and pump ReZero up more. Anyway, I think so, yeah. I think that there are still some generations within our industry that view anime as pornography or something weird. Ugh. I should have muted. I'm sorry. Which is really unfortunate. Or there are people who just associate anime with shonen anime and whatever is coming out on Shonen Jump and nothing else, which is really unfortunate because obviously there's every medium under the sun that anime offers. Yes, I think that those are the biggest misconceptions, or that anything that pertains to what women want to watch or consume has to involve magical girls in some way. Balkus also shared how an influx of talent entered the animation space during the pandemic when filming shut down, while anime production continued. Yeah, the yeses were definitely there, and it was also because there were a lot of talent that normally wouldn't play into in that space, who suddenly realized that they could make a paycheck in animation and wanted to come into the space, which is not a bad thing. I actually think animation is a medium that anybody should play in, even if they come from live action. She went on to describe the high-profile fancy schmancy who didn't have work and changed their initial project to animated epics, later falling in love with limitless animation. Everyone hating on Arcane Season 2, I see. I guess I approve of that. I never cared for Arcane to begin with. As for why Japanese anime resonates with people and its recent boom, Balkus credited the degree of sincerity in the emotion and journeys expressed with the characters. Yeah, I think that's a good evaluation. Contrasting it with the trends in Western and particularly superhero stories of becoming too grimdark or undercut genuine emotions with a quip. Yes, I do agree with that point too. The quippiness of Western stuff kind of does sort of ruin a lot of things. The pandemic was also said to factor in with people connecting online, and Balkus praised long-running series in anime, which ends with ensemble casts where fans could see themselves as friends with characters. The engagement seen at conventions throughout through interactions and cosplay was also cited as something that gave the anime fandom an enduring quality. You can check out the full interview here. Balkus shares her experiences as a producer. Okay, that's Balkus has long grown up on anime and participated in conventions. Current Crunchyroll senior director of global SVOD customer experience, Luciane Carrillo, shared in another recent interview that the level of anime fandom came as a surprise. Following her move from Netflix, Carrillo spoke about Crunchyroll's workplace culture, praising its structure, but said the company wasn't as mature when considering things like feedback culture. On fandom, she says, at Netflix, I also feel like some people were fanatics about specific shows and they were very vocal about it. But I think at Crunchyroll, it's at even another level. Like they are not only fanatics about specific characters or series or films that we put out there, but they dress like them. They listen to songs like them. They follow bands that develop all that experience for them. They're fully immersed in the experience, and that's what makes them fans rather than merely customers. Added that Crunchyroll is very determined to embrace that fandom. Slightly later, when talking about a way to keep fans immersed in the experience, well, if that was interesting, if it was the case that Crunchyroll was very determined to embrace their fans, they wouldn't be censoring the stuff that they got. They wouldn't be botching their fucking dubs and their marketing and their advertisements for everything. Yeah, we have eyes. We watched what you did with ReZero. We watched what you've done with Please Put Them On, Miss Takamine. We've watched a lot of this stuff. We know what's going on. One thing we keep working on and would love to get to, a point is where you communicate with us through a chat bot when you're trying to self-serve. We'd like to create that persona on the bot so we can also provide the same type of experience to you. Okay. It's just sales marketing at that point. Either way, it's one of those things where you have a bunch of people in charge who don't know what they're doing with anime. And there are some people who still see it as porn. That's a kind of a thing with the anime fandom at large, where they'll see something that's even like slightly attractive or sexualized, and they'll label it porn or gooner bait or whatever, and they get all up in a fucking tizzy over big boobs, like we talked about earlier. That's within the industry. Crunchyroll in and of itself has problems with that. They usually censor just about every anime that has fan service in it. And they have deliberately started doing it with stuff like Please Put Them On, Miss Takamine, which is something that we have actually observed. They have delayed releasing episodes so that they could get the censored version. I'm no fan of the ecchi genre just by itself. But even then, I don't want it actively censored or destroyed or anything, because everyone has their right to their opinion and their tastes. I can't tell you what you're allowed to and what you're not allowed to enjoy. It's as simple as that. So that is effectively the news. A crypto company has bought my anime list. Korea rages about a plastic figurine, and the anime industry, or just the industry, the entertainment industry in general, kind of views anime as pornography for whatever reason, which is kind of some bullshit. Probably. A lot of times you find people who are like, there's a regular thing within the like anti lolicon crowd, where people who are incredibly adamant about how awful these like fictional characters are end up being child predators themselves. But I won't get too much into that because I don't think I'm sober enough or like have all of the receipts for that kind of conversation right now. So yeah. That said, though, it is about time for me to wrap it up. So thank you to everyone who showed up and who listened and, hung out in chat. Great Pilgrim, Marcel, Questioners, Muffler, Tape. I know RG Energy was here. JM, Jeremy Turner showed up right at the beginning to say he wouldn't be able to be here. Ronnie popped into chat at one point. That was an interesting thing. But all that said, I don't know if I'll stream tomorrow. If I do, it'll probably be later in the day. I don't know what I'm going to do as far as that goes, but for the time being, I'd hope you drop a like, tune into some of the other videos and streams that I'll be doing. Hopefully, I have my video essay out for Wednesday for members first. I think I'm probably gonna do that like an every other week thing, and then on like every other Wednesday, I'll also do like a gaming stream or something. Just another thing to have fun with chat and all that. That said, hope you all have a good weekend. Grab yourself a nice drink or something, and forget about the woes of life like I am. Thank you. I appreciate every single one of you. You make doing this whole thing fun and worthwhile. So I hope you keep tuning in. I hope you find all of this entertaining.